Well, you know, I'll let you know, you're not the only one dealing with disappointment this week,
Oh, really?
because I read Otaku Elf. For my birthday, I got a large pile of manga
Mm.
that I've been neglecting, so I'd been making an effort to read through it.
Okay.
Otaku Elf is one of those cute girls doing cute things anime. Um,
Uh,
which in this case, the premise is that in this there's this Shinto shrine in the city, and it's famous because of the goddess who lives there. Well, the goddess is actually an elf, and it's unclear if she like a European elf, and it's unclear if she's from an alternate universe or if this is just a universe where elves live in the shadows or what.
uh,
But she's extremely agoraphobic, so she's been living basically living rent free in this Shinto shrine for centuries. And the girl on the left here, whose name I read a dozen times last night and is completely escaping me, she's like the new shrine maiden. She's kind of spunky and fun, but
yeah.
not very memorable outside of that. Um, I had actually seen the first episode of it, so I actually ended up skipping the first few chapters because that first episode was you ever it's actually very hard for me to want to read a manga where I've seen the anime and it is a one to one because
Yeah.
this that one part of the advantage of manga has over American comics that they treat the manga like a storyboard for the anime, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I've basically already seen the full version of the story. I was like, okay, I'll just skip ahead until it doesn't look familiar, which was about chapter 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was just cute girls having conversations about food. And the elf painted Gundams. And these little asides, which are the elf and the girl talking about what happened in the chapter,
Yeah.
with what happened being a very generous way of describing it. Um, was probably the most amusing part of things because like they got into this very weird conversation that I couldn't really follow because they never really defined what these two types of local cuisine they were discussing were.
Oh.
Let me give you an example. Daniel, Tim's Cascade potato chips have really gone downhill since I was a young man. The difference is that it's a type of, actually, no, I can't define it for you. They used to use peanut oil to fry these chips, but they switched over to canola oil at some point, and the flavor just hasn't been the same ever since. Now,
Uh,
what I really should have said was Tim's Cascade because that Tim's Cascade potato chips you can gain context, right? What I
right.
should have said was Tim's Cascades has really gone downhill ever since they switched from peanut oil to vegetable oil. It just hasn't been the same. You'd be like, Tim's Cascade, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Which are a regional potato chip brand up here in the Seattle area and
Uh,
Washington State in general.
yeah.
Um, that's what came to mind as I was reading that was trying to like it was just such inside baseball and they never actually really defined what the food was because in the original Japanese they wouldn't have to.
Right. Yeah. So is this kind of like a reverse isekai sort of thing?
Unclear. I don't know if this just happens to be a world where elves exist or if she's a transplant from another universe.
Okay.
But what I'll say is that the humor doesn't really land and there isn't really a story engine per se.
Mm,
The best you get out of it is the shrine maiden is vaguely embarrassed uh, by the by the otaku antics of the elf who is into a bunch of nerdy hobbies. Oh, I told you not to paint your figurines in the shrine. It's the whole area stinks like model paint. Well, such conflict. I think that's
yeah.
the thing. There's no conflict in this story. Like what they really needed was to like you could have had that set up, but it could have been like say, oh well, the otaku elf is tired of hiding in her place all the time, and she's going to go to school with the shrine maiden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and the problems that that causes. Or I don't know, the Otaku Elf gets a summon from her king, and so but she's too afraid to face her king and have to explain where she's been the last few hundred years. So she brings the Stride Maiden with her back to another world.
Yeah.
The closest we get to a setup for a conflict is on the last couple of pages. This dark elf girl shows up,
Uh,
but I've read enough of these series to know that that just means that you're going to have another character to be embarrassed, to either cause the Stride Maiden to be embarrassed at her antics, or to also be embarrassed at the low key antics of the Otaku Elf.
uh, so it's very much slice of life.
Yes. And it's slice of life I can't really relate to. Like I've in the past jokingly rated things on a weeb scale of 1 to anybody can understand it to a 5 of, haha, they used a slightly different character for that word, changing the pronunciation, which is a reference to a classical Japanese poem that every school child learns.
Yeah.
Yeah, very droll.
Yeah.
I would call this a 3, maybe like a low 4.
Okay.
Which if you're exceeding my otaku-ness, then you're in trouble. Um,
Yeah.
So I cannot give this a recommend, unfortunately.
Oh, well. Yeah.
You,
Can't win them all, I guess.
yep, win some, lose some.